It's getting a little sensual with the mic. So, before the start of our Rage Quit episode, I would like to tell a little bit about Rage Quit's sponsor. So, welcome to another episode of Rage Quit, the husband and wife duo that discusses video games every week. Rage Quit is sponsored by AFK Clothing Co. Are you a gamer? Do you enjoy games? Then check out AFK Clothing Co. for all of your gaming apparel needs. As I record this, I am sporting an AFK green sleeve baseball tee that I absolutely love and wear every week. We'd never be sponsored by something we didn't like. And if you'd like to support the show, head on over to AFK Clothing Co., link in the description below, and type ASI in the promo code box to get 10% off your next order. As always, just follow the bear, and now on to the show.
Bam, 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 bam.
Bam, 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 bam.
Well, that's how everyone feels lately.
Bam, bam, bam. No, that's not true. That was me.
That was fucked up. And every time I'm on this is tangential to my job. Every time I'm on a call and I get questions about how things are, so it pertains to my work where I work at a call center. So I get people who are concerned about the virus and everything and ask how it's, handled. Of course, it's in a fucking factory. Things are handled. Duh.
Yeah.
But
through the phone line.
Yeah, through the phone lines. Every time I get that question, I always want to go, I'm looking at the stamp right now. I'm printing it off. I can send it to you if you'd like, and it's like, you're talking to me over a phone. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I get being safe and cautious. Don't get me wrong. It's the right thing to do. You're talking to me on a phone.
Yeah,
why'd you lick me? Ew.
Social distancing makes sense, but...
The cat, by the way, not Anthony.
Yeah, that wasn't me. Social distancing, though, over the phone is already social distancing. It doesn't really need to be any more explicit than that, really.
I mean, you'd be surprised. People are interesting when you talk to them on the phone.
People are just interesting now just because...
Yeah, things.
Yeah, this is unprecedented, so...
Anyways, welcome back to Rage Quit.
That was good.
That was really high.
Yeah, and it was solid. It didn't break at all.
I had to work for that one.
Yeah, it's a special episode of Rage Quit.
Can't tell.
So we're gonna be doing a spoiler cast for Twin Breaker.
Ooh, yeah, so exciting! Our first ASI review.
Yeah, and so we actually got a review copy from Lillymo Games, or what is it?
Lillymo. Their dog's name, which is legit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think too, because it's through East Asia. I think their distribution and stuff for their physical copies.
Oh, the actual copies.
Yeah. So
but their studio's Lillymo.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Ours is ASI, but our podcast is Rage Quit, so that makes sense.
So who have I been talking to?
Ooh, who have I been talking to?
Some guy named Ben Smith. No. His name is Ben Smith, but he's been super great as far as...
talking to you.
Yeah, very great with communication and things like that, and making sure that okay, this is the embargo date for the game. So by the time this releases, it will be past the embargo. It's releasing a minute after the embargo lifts.
Not a minute too soon, not a minute too late.
Yeah, exactly. We will have a written review to correspond with this spoiler cast, by the way. But essentially, for those of you guys that don't know, Twin Breaker is a new game by Colin Moriarty and Chris Raygun. They are the co-hosts to the Sacred Symbols podcast, which is a PlayStation-centric podcast, as well as Sacred Symbols Plus, which is their supplementary podcast that they do for Patreon members.
Which is cool.
And this is their first game.
I think that's the coolest thing, because I know Colin Moriarty used to be on the bigger hit,
quote-unquote. He was a journalist for IGN for a long time.
Yeah, he was a journalist
and he was a senior editor, I believe, the job he finished up at there. Position, I should say.
And then when he officially first time left, he started up with his other friend and did
Kind of Funny
Games, and then they parted separate ways, and then he does his own
He's got his own company now.
Sacred Symbols, which is cool, because he does do stuff with...
Colin's Last Stand is his company, which is really cool.
Which is cool, and Chris Raygun all the time, but he does do stuff on his own, which is cool.
Yeah, so
he has a partner, but he's not relied on him.
Yeah, Chris Reagan
does his own thing.
Yeah, he's a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
And does a lot of comedy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of video game related stuff, but mostly comedy and entertainment.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is kind of funny because that's kind of a similar relationship that Jacob, our editor,
Yeah, it does.
has with ASI.
Go away, cat.
Is he works on contract pretty much
For
to
us to
be
edit our
the editor and
videos.
moderator for ASInquisitor, but he's
on
primarily a YouTuber and does comedy and entertainment
Dude,
while
he's
we
on-
do video games.
Yeah, he's definitely on point with moderating, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Comes up with shit like, did you see this? Did you realize this? No, that's why I have you doing it.
And he just takes care of it, and it's fantastic.
Mhm.
It's really good.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, to just kind of top everything off, this I guess technically is a sponsored episode, so like listeners or readers later with a written review. We did get a review copy of this early for free.
We did.
So just for transparency's sake.
Yes.
We're not paid though
No.
for
It
the
was
review,
honestly...
and we are allowed to say whether positive or
Negative.
negative, which won't be so much of a big issue with this game in particular. But like I said, in the interest of transparency, since it is our first review,
Just to be fully honest here.
yeah, we did receive a review code
To redeem it, to download
last
it.
week sometime.
Now tell us, before we dive into the game itself, how'd you go about to get the copy, actually? It's actually a really cool story.
Yeah, so I don't listen. I listen to a fair amount of podcasts, not a ton, but I
Yeah.
have definitely my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I don't listen to a lot of video game ones. The only video game one I do listen to is Colin and Chris's Sacred Symbols.
Yep.
And we are a Patreon supporter.
Yep.
Also in the interest of transparency. We just do $1 a month, pretty much. And the
No,
only
no,
reason I
it's not.
do that is so I can listen to Sacred
Them
Symbols
too.
Plus.
Yeah.
Which is their supplementary one, and then I think I get it a few days early too, both
Yeah.
of them. Because they are on free feed, so you can go check them out on
Yeah, you don't have
Spotify
to
and other
pay
services
to
and
listen to
stuff.
them. It's very similar how we do things here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Colin Moriarty in particular is very interactive with his community, especially on
Very.
Patreon. He's commented back to comments I've left several times. And there's hundreds of people on there that comment, so I think
yeah.
that's really cool. He's obviously paying attention. And anyways, they've been talking about developing this game for a long time, probably last 6 months to a year,
Yeah.
somewhere in
essentially.
there. I'm sure it's been in production kind of a little bit longer, but as far as the length of time that they've talked about it, it's been about that amount of time. And so, what was it? So they've been chatting about it on their podcast and stuff, and then I saw Colin Moriarty did just a Twitter post, and I follow him on Twitter, about how you could sign up for a review copy.
Yeah.
So I submitted the ASInquisitor email. That's all you needed to do at the time. And then I got an email that was a targeted blast from the Ben Smith, who on
Been
behalf
talking
of
to.
Lillymo Games and Colin Moriarty.
Lillymo or Lillymo?
That's only one O, so I'd say Mo.
We'll fight on this one.
I think he said it's the nickname for his dog is Lillymo.
Sure.
I believe so. I don't know. He could correct me if he listens to it.
I know, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, kind sir. We'd be more than gladly take the criticism.
Exactly. And yeah, so then I got a targeted email blast that said, this is all the information we need so
The
that
requirements.
it's not necessarily just big outlets. We do accept, small streamers or small podcasters, things like that, which is what we are.
You don't necessarily have to be one either to submit your information, which was kind of cool.
You did have to have some kind of outlet or something that you produce.
Oh, okay, that
was
makes sense.
attached. Well, that's not good. 1 second, we're going to take a little siesta. You guys won't even notice the break, but we will be right back.
Well, wouldn't you know it, folks, we're back.
Yeah. Apologies for that. It was just with all the craziness going on in the world, there was a fire truck and emergency services going right down our block. And we don't live on a main arterial. We live next to a fire station, fairly close. But
Yeah, but
it's
not-
unusual to see a fire truck go by your front window here.
Yep.
So just making sure.
Giant-ass bay window too, by the way. So it's
Yeah, you can see all the lights and stuff even through the curtains.
It's very concerning. Anyways, you're talking to Ben Smith. The
Yeah.
criteria to apply for it.
So yeah, I think you had to be a content creator or
Of some sort.
of
Okay.
some sort,
Which is
either with a
fair.
big outlet or small.
Your own, yeah.
So I filled out all the information that I could on it. You know, that we have a website and have wanted to do written reviews, and that I used to do comic book journalism. I didn't say game journalism specifically. And then, of course, our like YouTube channel and Twitch and some of our stats and stuff like that. And I was like 100% honest with, you know, what views we have or followers and things like that.
Take it up there, though.
Yeah, and then just a couple days later, I got a email with a PSN code to redeem for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah, and that was at the end of last week.
Yup.
And so then we were able to play through it. So I
Complete
could
it.
Yeah, so I could do the most accurate review that I can.
Yeah.
And then
a little bit of a blitz playthrough, but a playthrough nonetheless.
Yeah, it's not a very long game, so but we'll get into that. And yeah, so that was kind of the process.
Which is kind of crazy for people who don't realize that there is a process to get reviewing copies. Some people just think it's like luck of the draw, but in the same breath, it's like, no, you've got to submit this kind of work, or you've got to, you know some people, or it's just, how do I explain? It's not luck of the draw. It's, you know, experience as well as.
It's not like a raffle. A lot of times it is like making sure that you're honest, like you reach out, you communicate, and you know the right people or know who to talk to or see something like right place, right time as far as like, you know, seeing that tweet from Colin Moriarty about it. And
because if you
that happens to be things that we do, so I was able
because it
to
could have
do
been like
it.
you could have tweeted like he seen the tweet like 2 days later and he's like,
I kind of missed out, or after the game
or
released or something like
that. Oh, we're all full up, or we already got everyone who needs to review the games. I mean, we would have reviewed it regardless, but this is kind of cool to get a head start on it, especially with someone who we do listen to. Yes, we do pay to listen to them, but in the same breath, obviously we pay to listen to them for a reason. You know, it's not like we're paying to listen to them just because we feel like we're going to get shit out of it.
Or it's like a personal acquaintance, like a friend of mine or something.
No,
or
he
a friend
lives in
of a
fucking
friend.
San Francisco. Oh, that tastes like soap.
Not anymore. He hasn't lived in San Francisco in a long time.
Oh.
He's in Virginia.
Whatever. See, I'm wrong on lots of things. Virginia, which is clear across from us, because we live in Washington.
Yeah. Then, when I worked as a journalist, I freelanced and specifically did like comic books and books. I did a few games here and there, but that really wasn't my bread and butter. And there was a process to receive what they call ARCs, or advanced reader copies, as well, which was kind of interesting when I got into that. So there were certain publishers who were really easy to work with that you could submit your information, and they will send you hardbacks or trade backs.
Which is freaking cool. You have a few still teetering around the house here.
I do, yeah.
Because I don't even have a barcode or anything, and then like you compare, and like we see them in the stores, and it's like it's got a barcode because you have to buy them, but you get the pre.
It doesn't have it because usually it's before release, and then like if they have maybe like illustrations in it at all, it'll be like
doodles.
Sometimes it'll be doodles. More often than not, there's just a box that says "image goes here," which is hilarious because the copy hasn't been finalized yet. So you're just reviewing.
And insert girder.
yeah, you're just reviewing, you know, the written word, and so it's not complete yet.
No.
It's kind of what it comes down to.
Well, how crazy is like not? I mean, this is a complete game, but in the same breath, it's like to be able to get complete games, or 99% complete games, or something like that. An early release of a demo of a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this isn't really considered that. It is a complete build. It is like finished and a complete product. It is cool to have it early because like the trophies are live and stuff. It had already been certified.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely an interesting experience. I mean, it's similar to when I would do reviews of advanced reader copies of novels, but not quite the same. There's a little bit more to it as far as content creation.
You're literally playing a game comparatively to sitting there and reading. You're being focused on like the task at hand and actually diving into the game. Because
I would like blitz through like books and stuff. I'm a fairly like quick reader, so it's like I could usually hammer it out in a day, maybe 2 at most, and then I would. And because it was an advanced reader copy, if it was something I hadn't read or wasn't familiar about, I would highlight new notes in the copy itself.
Well, that makes sense, though.
And then I would just use that to frame out my review, and then I write it. Obviously, you can't do that with like a video game very well.
No,
so I
not
was
in the
kind of
slightest.
building out the review in my head. What I wanted to talk about, or comparisons
you
I wanted to
didn't
make.
have like a little notepad next to you and pause a game. This is a good docking point right here.
pretty good just because it's like I only have a few days to play through the game and do a review and a
Can you
podcast.
imagine if I had like a 40-hour game?
Oh, yeah, to try to bust through that, which I would have tried to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been like super intense.
You'd have been very angry. I'm playing the game!
Yeah, I would have just had to like stay up and like play through it. And
I
that's
gotta
work.
Yeah, I don't want to do
Which
that.
would have been weird.
But when you like have this game though, it's like legit because it's a really cool game though. So
Yeah, so I kind of want to dive into a little bit of the history of like the genre before we really kind of get into the nitty gritty.
the dirty gritty.
So Twin Breakers is what we know is like a brick breaker.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you guys that maybe are unfamiliar with that term, I'm sure you've seen it or played a brick breaker.
Or a version.
Like on your phone, or you've seen other people play it, or maybe you're an old school.
Bubble pop.
Yeah, kind of puzzle genre
Yeah.
a little bit. But essentially you have like two paddles, similar to like Pong. And there's a whole bunch of bricks on screen, and you have to shoot your little Pong ball and destroy all the bricks on your screen. That's the gist of it.
Ow.
Fairly simple kind of concept.
You know idea how I just stabbed my nose with my finger.
That's fine.
Yeah, but no, it is very simplistic concept because it's based off of a really old genre of games. It was all of them actually stemmed from Pong itself, didn't they?
Yeah, 1972's Pong, which
Oh,
everybody
God.
knows that.
So throwback.
Yeah, it kind of created its own genre, because obviously there wasn't very many genres at the time.
Lots of game consoles, not a lot of genres. Go figure.
Yeah, and so this is for Atari, of course, and then not more than a few years later, probably about 4 years later, I believe 76, you get Breakout, which is really kind of the original
Brick breaker.
brick
game.
breaker, and it is technically like a subgenre of like Pong.
Which is funny to think it's like a ping pong game, Pong.
Yeah.
And then turned into a brick breaker game. All they essentially added was remove the paddle or however they designed it.
They
and
had the
added-
paddle still, and the
added
ball.
bricks.
They just added bricks. Yeah, so it becomes a brick breaker.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
break the bricks. Either there's criteria of how many times you have to hit the brick. Sometimes they're easy, it's just you hit them once. Sometimes it's twice.
Yeah, and there's
sometimes
like power-ups and stuff too, especially in later ones, which they kind of like refer to as like breakout clones.
Yeah.
And like, because Brick Breaker, as far as like the name is concerned, wasn't until a lot later.
Yeah, obviously more term, generational term.
Yeah, because
You
it's
know.
like, didn't stem kind of from the first, even though that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
But there was a game called Brick Breaker that really kind of cemented
The
that
name.
jargon kind
Yeah.
of into the culture, which is kind of cool. And yeah, there's a ton of those. You know, you can get them on your smartphone, and you have been probably the
Dude, I
last
remember
15 years.
This is like a great throwback for me. The Thrifty Scotsman that's in the valley of where we live. It's a straight up just like kind of not ghetto but ghetto burger place, and they
Yeah.
have old arcade games, and they have a brick breaker, a bubble brick breaker game
That's awesome.
with like little blob people. I have to look up what the name is on the game, and I always bug my mom for a quarter after eating burgers to the one to play the brick breaker game.
Right, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so I've had some experience. I mean, for granted, it's not in the,
I think kind of like
early
everybody
70s.
does, though. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we just discussed on our sister podcast, 64 Bits of Rage, about console generations, and in particular, how they pertain to Nintendo, because that's our
Yeah.
Nintendo podcast. But we probably talked for 10 minutes or so about how we're a little bit too young to have been in the initial kind of arcade craze.
Which sucks.
We were
'Cause we
kind
missed
of
out
in
on
like
it.
the, like third or fourth generation of home consoles. And we had some experiences with arcades, but that wasn't the sole way to play games, or the most convenient, really.
Yeah.
And so we missed out on it. You know, as adults, we've been to barcades, and you can go listen to that podcast. We talked about how we went to a barcade in Portland, and our adventures and
Well, at the
laughs
same
there,
time when
but-
we were there, we didn't play brick breakers. You know.
No, we were kind of going for like the ones we remembered from when we were
You know,
young,
like
or-
Alien and stuff like that. I like to
yeah,
play.
the
and,
Simpsons and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that.
You know, this just kind of hits home to me.
Pinball.
Yeah, home to me with the brick breaker game because it's like, being able to play that when I would go to a burger joint. So,
Yeah, and also in Spokane Valley in Washington, there was a Godfather's Pizza close by, and I would play arcade games there because they had a little arcade area. So it's like as we were waiting for our pizza, or if I finished my pizza and my parents were eating and talking, then I would go play the arcade.
I think that's
games.
like the.
And I played Pac-Man.
I think it's just called Bubble Breaker.
Bubble Breaker.
I honestly think it's just called Bubble Breaker.
Probably. They usually have fairly
very
kind of simplistic names.
I can't find the name, honestly. I wish I could. I don't even know if they have that freaking thing there still. That was like 10 years ago when I was like a teenager.
Unfortunately, a lot of those kind of places gutted their little arcade sections.
Which kind of sucks. It's like,
so.
you know, if you think about it too with parents, if like you can see a safe place or you're done eating at a restaurant, you do get antsy kids or kids with ADHD or something along those lines. Give them a freaking couple quarters. Go fucking play a goddamn arcade game.
Like our local theater, our Regal Theater, has arcade machines in
That's what I mean, yeah.
Which is crazy, because it's one of the few places I can think of that actually has...
What is in between movies?
That's at our mall here, which used to be like the biggest mall this side of the Mississippi ages ago, which is funny. But anyways.
Yeah, back in the day.
There was an arcade in like the basement
area.
And they completely sealed that off within like the last 5 years.
Which is creepy. This place was creepy.
It was creepy.
That's when molestations happen.
Oh, and I don't think that was a thing. I played a lot of miniature golf there.
You can hear the kids screaming. Anyway, so, no, but they...
Trapped in a ball pit or in one of those machines.
Oh, God.
Like a claw machine. Toddler in there. Ollie would get himself trapped in there.
Ollie would get himself... God, kid.
He totally would.
Anyways, but they moved some of the arcade games into the movie theater, which makes sense. You're either waiting for a movie to start or in between movies, or if you do like a double feature, they'll have like the break in between them.
Yeah, it is just kind of like safe for arcades now.
You really are hard to press to get a quarter game machine.
Yeah, was it Buster's was the big one?
Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's, yeah.
Like the adult one.
Those are kind of gone.
They still have Chuck E. Cheese. They don't use coins as much. No, they don't use tokens anymore. Do they use tokens? Shit.
They use the card, don't they?
I think they use a card now. Same with... No, quarters. They use actual quarters instead of their own tokens. I don't print them anymore.
Oh, interesting.
They use quarters, because that's when my niece's birthday...
No slugs or
nephew's.
tokens. Yeah, it was Calder's birthday.
Calder's birthday, that's right. And took Ollie there, and they actually use quarters instead of tokens. I'm like, oh, that's like the whole point of going to Chuck E. Cheese, because you got the Chuck E. Cheese coupons and tokens. And
yeah.
I still have one, a super fucking old, like 1960, Chuck E. Cheese printed coupon.
That's cool.
Or token. I kept it because I think it was my mom's birthday, 1967.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same as my mom's birthday.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, my mom's cooler. I don't know.
So necessary.
But this game honestly brings a lot of nostalgia and honestly just not to say simplicity, because the games are the levels are difficult, but that great memory of being able to play games back on in the actual arcade and on the machines.
Or even just early console generations as well. I think, in my opinion, it does a good job of bridging the two and just harkening back to an older era in gaming, whether that's arcade for you or, you know, the Sega Genesis or the NES or the Super Nintendo or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Or the Atari 2600. It does a wonderful job of really
bringing back those memories.
Yeah, it just like encapsulates a time that we no longer exist in.
No. And it's like the thing I liked really saying about it too, not for granted, but it was really colorful and everything. And the only thing, it just makes me laugh every time. Every time you say Pong, I just think of that 70s show where ASInquisitor is playing Pong against Fez, and he's getting mad because he's beating him and he's reading a book or a comic or something and he's not even paying attention. He's like, I'm so good at Pong, I don't know what to do. And then him and Red take apart the mantle and to make the Pong paddle smaller, and how Red's like, I'll put my foot in your ass if this is destroyed, even though it's my console and we're taking it apart.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just harkens back to that silly memory as a kid, because obviously that's that 70s show and it came out in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of funny to see that
it's a throwback of a throwback.
Of a throwback. It's
because that 70s show is even outdated now, and it was talking about a time that was, outdated,
Yeah, and it's just funny.
Not outdated per se, but just like older.
Yeah, and it's just funny to see it because it's like a way to just kind of throwback and essentially what you saw when that game kind of came out and how it was played.
Yeah, and for us at ASInquisitor, we stream a lot of retro games. We play a lot of retro games.
How many goddamn retro game consoles do we have hooked up? Because you're getting a Sega Saturn soon.
Yeah, so Sega Saturn's arriving Tuesday, and I have one on loan from our FGG co-host John right now.
It's very altered. I don't like it.
And then we have the Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
We have the PS3, which is kind of on the verge of being a legacy console. Pretty much just use it to play PS1 games. That's why it's hooked up.
In Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
10
N64.
doesn't have the goddamn,
Genesis is hooked up. And then we have the NES and the GameCube and the Wings. And the Wii is hooked up as well.
Yeah, we don't really use... Well, honestly, we use 90% of the consoles.
And then as far as new consoles, we have the PS4 and Switch as well.
I think the Wii is the only one we don't really play games on.
Not a ton. I have very few
think it's
games that I've gone through, and it's difficult with motion controls now.
Especially streaming and trying to do motion controls.
Yeah, I'd use it with a Pro Pad if I could. But not all games use it.
You could use a Pro Pad, because like when we were goofing around our Switch last night and downloading demos, like we had to get the little Joy-Cons out to play the Just Dance 2020.
Yeah.
I still can't believe you fucking kicked my ass at that game. That's so annoying.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
Hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, long story short, we enjoy retro games. We stream a lot of retro games. That part is. And we're constantly like trying out new games, whether they be like co-op or I'm showing Ariel something.
We got like Turok 2 for the 64, GoldenEye, which we both have played.
We tried out Siphon Filter 2 the other night. That multiplayer. Jet Moto 3 we tried out.
I like being a Velociraptor. I'm gonna master how to kill you, by the way, on the Velociraptor.
One of these days.
One of these days. You see, Sonny? I would pick up a freaking shotgun, but how the hell is a Velociraptor gonna shoot you with a shotgun?
I don't know.
But you are a freaking Triceratops that's just mutated enough that you can carry a shotgun around.
Well, the Triceratops had clothes and was standing upright. That's right. And I left the Velociraptor so you could pick it if you wanted to. So I picked. Yeah, I know. That's why I picked the Triceratops.
I was trying to bitch slap you, but I wasn't doing it right.
Plus, I used the controller.
I know.
Like, my fingers are long enough that I can reach every button on an N64 pad.
I hate you.
Which is fantastic. Joystick, all face buttons, and the back trigger with my index finger.
Baby hands, so this doesn't work out too great. So
everyone always holds it the same way. They hold it sideways.
Oh yeah, I mean, fun times. But yes, I will.
Because you have to. So.
Yeah, I will kick your ass.
Except for me.
One day, we will record it too. By the way, I'm gonna kick his ass with a Velociraptor.
One day.
One day.
You don't need to practice.
Except for I hate Jet Moto. Fuck that game.
I love Jet Moto. Jet Moto is fantastic.
It's so fucking annoying. Why am I going backwards? Why am I in a circle? Where the fuck am I? How did I fall off?
Jet Moto's just like that. Jet Moto's like chaotic. Like that's kind of the fun of it. It's supposed to be like an extreme sport. Like,
oh god, yeah, because you're on a hover thing and like, how did I drown? I'm floating on the air.
That's why it's awesome.
No, it's fun, but it just kind of kicks, like we were talking about, it kicks that nostalgia button hardcore, yo, when you're playing this game.
It really does, yeah. Twin Breakers does an awesome job of, like I said, blending that arcade...
BitTunes.
Yeah, the Chiptunes are fantastic for it.
Well, bits. That's why I call it BitTunes.
Fair enough.
It makes sense.
It does make a little sense.
I just portmanteaued it.
You did.
I do a lot.
You did.
Don't frustrate me.
So we can dive into the nitty-gritty now.
Oh, yeah, getting down and dirty.
But yeah, I think that's a good starting place. The music for Twin Breakers is phenomenal.
It is.
Great chiptune track. It's very jazzy.
Well, yeah,
very,
it's always jazzy.
Very upbeat, which I prefer. Like, and it harkens back to when I played the Sega Genesis all the time on the Super Nintendo. So I definitely appreciate the time and care it took for like the audio design. Like,
oh yeah,
because besides kind of by the nature of the genre, and then its allusions to arcade games and like original console gaming, it then worked in another layer over the top of that with chiptunes, like and the music that like accompanies it, and they didn't shirk on it. It's in the menus, it's in each level, like. And it's not the same repetitive
chiptune over
they're
and over
varied
and over again.
and kind of go with the pace of the game or what level you're doing, which is
I
really cool.
like the fact that this game's got bosses in it. Like, let's
I do
just
too.
talk about a brick breaker with a boss in it right now, because don't have bosses. You may get like some random things that turn into like stone or make it difficult to get it. But let's talk about the frickin' brick breakers bosses. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that was a really
See,
cool feature that I really wasn't expecting. It's like every 10 levels you get a boss battle.
Yeah, there's 40 levels.
And there's 40 levels
bosses.
total. And so, yeah, it's like equally kind of paced, which is nice.
Equidistance. Everyone likes those patterns.
Yeah, and so it's like, it kind of breaks...
Why is there a boss on 25? It needs to be on 30. I don't like this.
Yeah, and it breaks up the... I mean, monotony is really not the like right word for it, because every level's pretty kind of unique, and groups of levels are unique.
It's the fact that it changes pace.
But yeah, it does. It kind of...
That seems unnecessary.
A little bit.
We've got to turn that down.
I don't know.
Alright, keep talking, I'll turn it down.
But, yeah, every 10 levels you get a boss battle, and they're super unique, and they kind of fit the tone of, like, the alien race that you're not necessarily battling, but would be considered, like, the antagonist.
Yeah, not like the main boss, but they're little bosses. Like, little guys.
Yeah, they're kind of, like, thwarting you along the way
they're
for a very
evil
specific
guys.
reason, and it's not really what you think.
No.
And so...
Ow.
They're super interesting. Like, you don't have to break all the bricks in that level. You just have to cause enough damage to the boss.
Which is crazy that you don't have to break all the bricks. And
not in those ones, yeah. Not
well,
in those levels.
you get, obviously, probably more points if you break all the bricks.
You do, yes. And there is, like, a score chasing kind of, like, you know... Aspect to the game.
And gradings, too.
Yeah, and so, like, I'd have to tinker around with it a little bit more. I don't know if this is, like, 100% true. But I noticed, like, if you get an S rank, then you get, like, a codex, which fills it kind of in more information on the story. So I think the goal is to get S rankings on all of them to get it. So, yes, you would want to destroy more bricks during a boss battle to get more points. Therefore, you could get the codex.
It's not necessarily required, but it's, you know, which we talked about how the importance of finishing levels and doing things before you move on. And
exactly.
And
there's a few trophies and stuff attached to, like, the boss battles as well.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of cool. So, or achieving an S rank is probably
more appropriate. Yeah. Well, and then I like the level design. Let's talk about like how the artwork of it. Now it's platformer, not shade cell.
Yeah, it's closer to like pixel art than anything. Yeah, which will hold up. Like we've talked about before.
Pixelated art.
Just for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's a very own, like, unique kind of aesthetic, and it fits into that. And, again, because it's harkening back, it fits perfectly. It fits the tone of the game, you know, perfectly.
Yeah. And it's cool because, like, the simplicity, not necessarily simplicity because it's obviously colors, and you gotta make sure they blend well, they pop right, you know, you can see you're hitting the bricks. What I like the most with watching, like, you play, essentially, I didn't get to play because I worked, but when you were playing, well, I played a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
When you would hit the bricks, because obviously I like the Roman numerals on them. It's not just 1, 2, 3, or you just kind of are guessing how many times you need to hit
they have a Roman numeral for how many times to hit it.
Yeah.
I think the highest I saw was 4, maybe 5.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah.
And so...
And then it counts down and changes color.
Yeah, it counts down and changes color, so you know, like, oh, I'm getting closer. I'm almost gotten all these ones done, and I can either see the color change or the Roman numeral change, obviously depending on your vision and how well you see.
Yeah, exactly. And if you play long enough, you kind of just then associate the Roman numeral to the color. So you pay less attention to the Roman numerals and just know that it's like, okay, well, red bricks I only need to hit once.
Yeah. And I think they build that up too.
Yellow bricks are 2, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, they build up to that too, because essentially the bricks do have a color that they have, but once you start hitting them, they change to what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, to the
like,
smaller
was,
degree.
One was a heart, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that was like the overall shape of them, yeah.
Yeah,
they had some really interesting level design choices like that too, that made it either like not easy per se, but like you kind of had to tackle it a certain way for like your initial ball bounce, or
where to tap it,
or just difficult, like the
Yeah.
heart-shaped one, because they're all lumped together, and you have to hit them all several times, which that was the penultimate level,
Yeah,
which
getting
makes
to
sense
near the end.
why
It's
it
more
would be the
difficult.
hardest or one of the hardest levels. I had difficulties with that one, but I didn't find it overly difficult. I found it the right amount of challenge.
Where it's like if you died, you wanted to get back and try it again. You're like, oh shit, I
And I
could
knew
do
it
this.
wouldn't take me 3 hours to do that mission. It would be like, oh, I'm stuck in this. This is going to take me 20 minutes,
At
or a
most,
half
yeah.
hour at most if I was really bad at it. And I was like, I finished it up this morning and I was like fairly like groggy, like, so probably wasn't,
On
top of my
your
game for
yeah.
like reflexes and stuff. And it didn't take me that long to get through all of them.
No.
But I also didn't find it to be like, oh, the 5
Taxing
minutes I'm
thing.
done with the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. It was a good, probably in total. This is amongst like 2 days, 3.5 hours
Yeah.
to go through 40 levels. And there's a trophy where it's like to do all 40 levels in a 24-hour period, which is kind of cool. So it's like obviously expected that you can go through them quickly.
And obviously with the trophy system, like we've talked about many, many, many times before on both of our podcasts, our sister podcasts and this podcast, a lot of games are geared towards you playing them again. So they'll have trophy sets. Can you do this in a 24-hour period? Can you, do these in this amount of time? Can you go, and it's meant to go through and through and through.
Yeah, for replay value.
This game essentially may, in one sitting, be a 4-hour game from start to finish. But for you to get all the trophy set, it's going to be a 20-hour game.
Probably not 20 hours.
Okay.
I would probably say 7 to 9 at most. Because you just have to play through it twice.
Fair enough.
So, because you could get the 24-hour one in one playthrough or your second one. But there is a trophy for New Game Plus.
True.
And then there's some levels that you'll need to repeat just to get that S ranking on. And then you have to try every mode.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, finish every mode. You just have
No.
to try them all out, kind of a thing. And I got that trophy earlier. Which is funny, because Colin is a huge,
Trophy.
advocate of trophies
Yeah.
and, enjoys getting them. But is
You're
also
a
very
big
critical
trophy
of
The
trophy
system.
lists and stuff. And he did a really good job, because this is, his big outing to do his own trophy list for his own game.
Yeah.
And I think he did a really good job kind of balancing, difficulty, ease of getting trophies, and then, like you pointed out, adding the replayability, where it's reasonable, especially for a brick breaker,
Yeah.
but not crazy where it's like
A 40-hour brick breaker game.
yeah, you have to you have to get 10,000 points on every single stage, or just
God,
something
I hate
crazy.
shit like that where you have to get an innumerable amount of points or skill points or something on a fucking level, and it's like.
I do have a funny aside about this though.
I'm sure you do.
So one of the levels I was playing this morning, I launched the ball that bounced
Sure
it,
you do.
and it got stuck on one of the fix things that it can bounce on.
Yeah.
On the screen. It was in the middle of all these bricks.
Oh no.
And it was just stuck there, and it was just looks like it was bouncing back and forth or glitching.
Yeah.
It was the only time this happened. I didn't have any other glitches or any other
Issues.
issues with the game. There was no audio issues or physics-based issues. Nothing. Just this one time. And I don't know how I did it or what happened, if it was just a fluke, which is most likely what it was.
Yeah, well, games do have those.
And in Twin Breakers, you have this move where you can create a reflection of your paddle, and it'll shove the ball
Out of the way.
Yeah, without the ball having to strike the paddle.
Okay.
Well, if you do the reflection and it hits the ball, you get 10 points.
Okay.
Well, it was close enough to me that I just hit the reflection button over and over and over and over because it was charging repeatedly. And so that level in particular, I was going to run out of time.
Yeah.
If you run out of time, these little drop ships come in and they explode all the bricks.
No.
Every bricks that they explode, though, subtracts from your total score.
Ouch.
And if you break below 0 into
Yeah.
negatives, then you fail the mission, you start over.
Fair
kind
enough.
of a thing. I couldn't get any of the bricks because the ball got stuck on the very first toss.
Oh.
But I racked up 3,000 plus points by doing the reflection thing, and then they destroyed all the bricks for me, and then that was it. And then I was I had a crazy high score still.
and I beat the level.
Aw.
So I'm wondering, once people start playing this,
not intended, and the
this
slightest
game, like leadership board wise, where I will fall with that particular level, which I thought was really kind of funny.
Wait, yeah, obviously that definitely was not intended for it to
No,
happen
and it's a really small glitch, and I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah, play it again, or bring it up in your written review and all that. And so, with that being said, another thing that broke my brain, I'm sure it broke your brain as well, the fucking working the paddles, the different ups and downs, and then lefts and rights, move them, and then like the left move. Oh god, that broke my brain so much.
Yeah, so it's not just like a simplistic brick breaker where you have like
the back and forth or the up and down.
Or even two paddles. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put this in my written review. My favorite, the story, which we'll get into in a little bit, is awesome. And I like how it's written and that there's a story for a brick breaker to begin with. But there is, in the dialogue, Colin and Chris are like the main characters as well. And they, in between, like, levels, like, every few levels or so, they have a dialogue to, like, further the story.
Yeah.
And they deploy the bouncer, which are your paddles. And then there's, like, a battle, and you're destroying the bricks, which is great. Yeah, they call it the bouncer. Redeploying the bouncer. Yeah. Well, when it gets to I think it's between levels 20 and 30. They're usually kind of grouped in 10s with the bosses when they change up the kind of style of play, but it's still a brick breaker. It's like, let's deploy the holographic bouncers. That'll make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then it dives into that level where you have then 4 paddles, 2 separate axes with 2 joysticks. Or you can use the face buttons.
Yep.
The sacred symbols or the D-pad.
Yep.
To control the bottom ones left and right, and then the side ones up and down.
That broke my brain so hard.
And I was like, let's make this easier. Like the dialogue that went right before that, which I'm sure was intentional.
Yeah.
Was like, holy shit, this broke my brain. And I totally like biffed that group of 10 levels was so arduous to get through until I got it down. I had to switch to the face buttons.
Yeah.
For a while to get used to it. And
I was trying to use
then I had to go back because it is a little quicker to use the analog.
Yeah.
But as far as like
trying to get pat your belly and rub your head.
To patch my brain hemorrhage, I had to use the face buttons. And then once it was starting to scab over, I used the analog sticks.
I like, it's just like pat your belly, rub your head.
It totally was, yeah.
Because like when you had
and then it went away for a little while, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, this is good pacing. Like, thank God.
Yeah.
And then it came back, of course. But there was a couple levels after that, like, group of 10 where it was like, it went back to kind of normal, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Right. Well, like, when you had me try a couple levels, you just immediately threw me in the deep end. And I'm like...
Because I wanted you to try that one in particular. Because I was like, holy shit.
Let's see if my brain's not the only brain that breaks. So...
It's kind of what it came down to.
When I played it, and I don't know, I was trying to just use the analog sticks. And then I'm like, the fuck? What? No, left? No, up, down? Okay, what? I have to use both of them? Why do I gotta use both controllers? I got goddamn sticks. No, left, right, the bottom, turn, 3/4, brain, and my hamster fell off the wheel. So, then you told me how to use the face pads or the sacred symbols, and I'm like, this doesn't make anything easier for me. I don't play enough games to even know how to remotely make this shit work.
I know. It was definitely crazy.
But it's fun, though. I feel like if I would have been able to start from the beginning and obviously work my way up to that sense where I could, start with the 2 bottoms and the 2 left and rights, the bouncers, 2 bottom bouncers, and then, 1 level 2 side bouncers, and kind of got the flow of things. My brain wouldn't have been as broken, but since you just threw my ass in the deep end, my brain just overloaded, and you can smell it burning, and the hamster screaming, and the wheels spinning. Nothing's there, though.
Fun. Like, getting in there, just, like, organically playing it. It broke my fucking brain. It was the same thing. I had played, like, 20 levels and done, like, 2 bosses, and I was just like... what is this nonsense? I've never played a brick breaker like this.
But it's not a bad brain break. It's not like you're like, my brain, the stupidity of what just happened.
I'll never be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that.
You
It's
do get an error, and you gotta hit the side of the brain and get it refunctioning again, and you're good to go. But it's not to the point where you're like, I'm never gonna fucking get this to work. I can't get past level 20.
It wasn't. It was like, it definitely amped up the difficulty. I appreciated the modernization of a brick breaker.
Oh, yeah.
Which, how?
Yeah.
Like, it seems such like a simplistic type of
how.
game, but they did. They added not in only just that, but it was a really clever game mechanic to put in over the top of just a traditional brick breaker, which I thought was cool. Because it does a great job of just kind of bridging that gap between nostalgia and modernity.
Yep.
And it's like, that's cool. Like, that's
break
hard to
your
pull off.
I want to bet $10 people, like, it's not necessarily going to be a complaint, but one of the things they're going to say, the level difficulty is the brain breaking part. And
well, and I think for like younger gamers who aren't as familiar with brick breakers or arcade games and things like that may have some difficulties.
I feel like they're going to be like, this level's so hard. I got stuck on it for like 20, 30 minutes. I'm like,
yeah.
My brain may break, but I got to pass it,
Well, and simultaneously playing that, which is very kind of arcadey and then Twitch-based, and then Doom Eternal.
Then you play Doom 64, which you never had a 64.
Yeah, but that plays very similarly to like Doom 1 and 2.
But nitpicking. But Doom Eternal. Quick
very,
pace.
very Twitch-based and fast. And
then my ass is just playing Animal Crossing.
I play that, that's my palate cleanser right now. I play that in between Twin Breakers and Doom Eternal. I play Animal Crossing.
I gotta catch them bugs, paying them right, babe. I'm catching them bugs, paying them right.
Otherwise, like, my muscles in my hand are just gonna be twitching nonstop.
Or in this case, you're cheating and getting pears and paying off your rent, but whatever.
Hey, I didn't find anybody online today that had paid off their house, so I was like, snailing it.
Oh
I've never
God.
played an Animal Crossing. Snailing it.
Animal Crossing is fun, and it is a great palate cleanser, but the same
really
breath, it's just funny how they add the modernization and the fact that they added the two different controlling paths and left and right and trying to get your brain to work together, and it just doesn't want to work.
Yeah, it was super cool, though. I'm glad that they added that and they, like, updated it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like... I mean, it's a genre I haven't played recently in the last, like, 5, 10, 15 years.
I honestly haven't even think of any type of game out there or reviewed, or we've even seen the indie game or anything like that that's had something even remotely modernized Brick Breaker.
I haven't either. Like, I've played, like, modernized, like, other versions of arcade games. Like, Resogun comes to mind, which is brilliant. Some kind of, like, top-down, like, arcade, like, what's the... Dead Nation we played together, then there was Alien Nation later, and things like that kind of revamp like old arcade styles for modern audiences, but not specifically a brick breaker. So very cool.
Time to say brick breaker, I think about that brick that we have in our yard that says building brick, but it sounds like it looks like it says fucking brick.
Fucking brick, which is like right in the middle.
It's printed on there. It's fucking brick. It actually says building brick. We didn't know what it was, just in case.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but and another cool thing what they did also to modernize it is they added a story to it.
Yeah, the story is great. Like, Colin wrote the story, obviously being a journalist or a writer.
Makes sense.
Who's wanted to stray into fiction and things like that. It makes sense for him to try his hand at doing a story, and so there's a story component to a brick breaker. Which
if that doesn't break your brain, I don't know what will.
Ridiculous. But it's really cool because it's told through the wonderful kind of like chiptune music and pixel art, and then there is just traditional like dialogue boxes. It's not there aren't voiceovers, of course.
No,
there wouldn't be
I mean,
in a game like this anyway.
It's like Animal Crossing where I think they amp the speed of the voice, so it's more like
it's just actually like your typing text, which is used to be which used to be kind of like a big thing in older games, before voice acting. They
the
do
pace
like
of the tone, and
like
when
you
it's
just
very
said.
very important, it's like
And just however fast the characters are scrolling on the screen, it would make that kind of like typing, noise. It fits in with the chiptune music and audio. But yeah, it's like a sci-fi story, which is great. It's like far in Earth's future, and there's been a World War III, and humans are like struggling to survive to some
It was
degree
very
because
eerily
there's a
similar,
war
so.
between the Chinese, the Russians, and I believe Europe.
Sounds similar.
And the United States is kind of left out of it. We've become like isolationists again, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, we send out like generational ships to Alpha Centauri, our closest neighbor.
Yeah.
Well, they stop like communicating with Earth, and then one of them comes back and is like orbiting Mars, and we discover like a wormhole around Mercury.
Cool.
And then they send Colin and Chris through the wormhole. And then they're trying to figure out, like, where they are. And there's all this, like, kind of debris around them.
Yeah.
And, like, if it's the ships or just meteoroids or something along those lines.
Breaker.
And they come in contact with another people from Alpha Centauri. And their view of humanity.
Okay.
And this part I won't spoil, or even in the spoiler cast, because I think it's cool just to finish on your own. And the story's not very long, but it has a really kind of like interesting twist as far as like dealing with aliens or like Earth's place in the galaxy.
There may or may not be aliens, and we may or may not exist. Who knows? You gotta
Who
finish
knows?
it. You gotta
But it's
finish
really
it.
cool. It's a very interesting, like, I wouldn't say like politicized, but very kind of logical kind of course of action for like what could happen, you know, as far as our expansion into the stars and what we could do to our own planet or not, kind of a thing. And yeah, and so then the journey of the story just follows Chris and Colin with their bouncers and their ships as they figure out what happened to the generational ships that that NASA sent out, and you know what's around Alpha Centauri or the people there.
So I guess the final question on the audience's brain here, sir. What's your scoring? What you call it? What you got?
Oh God, I was wondering if you were gonna ask me.
Oh, I'm gonna ask you this. Well, what is the Hoolit scoring here? Do we introduce ourselves? I don't remember.
Probably not.
Whoops.
They know who we are. They
Schultz.
know.
He's Anthony Schultz, just so you didn't know. Well, what is the ASI's official scoring on the Brick Breaker?
How should we score?
Shit, I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. I'm literally asking you. I'm not being
We'll
superstitious.
do it how we did on the rock.
Good. How many paws do
We'll
you get?
we'll give it each
One
out of 5 stars.
Out of 5 stars, and
and
then
then combine.
out of what's not paws? Polar bears.
Polar
God,
bear.
you suck.
But wait, I don't care.
Paw
It
prints.
can be fine. It can be polar bear paws. I'm fine with that.
How many polar bear paws do you give it?
I'm just like stuck between a 4 and a 5.
Come on.
4.5. Nailed it.
Nailed it. I'm honestly gonna give it a 4.7 paws.
4.7 paws.
Yep.
That's amazing.
It's 4 and then 3 toes.
Well, and that gives it a 4.6 paw out of 5.
Which honestly, that's awesome. We honestly don't have to call it paws. I'm just giving him a hard time.
I wrote it down in the timestamps as polar bear paws, 4.6 out of 5.
How do you?
Obviously, the ASInquisitor review system does not exist, so it's a little arbitrary.
Yeah.
Personally, I am struggling between like a 4 and a or a
Why?
5. I'm not going to explain myself.
I'm gonna hit you with my snowball, polar bear paw, man.
I think for what it is, it's near perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be honest, it does just so much right.
Mm-hmm.
The music's spot on, the pixel art's spot on, the story's on, the throwback as well as the modernization, like that kind of dichotomy that's coupled together very nicely. I don't think it's going to be everyone's cup of tea, though.
No.
I don't think everybody... And so I'm thinking more like versatility or accessibility for people.
Yeah.
I think the genre itself, unfortunately, is going to be too old for some people.
Especially the younger generation, unfortunately. They're not going to really care about it.
I don't think they're going to find it as interesting or as quaint or really care about the nostalgic qualities and of like original...
Well, they don't have nostalgia. That's why they're lame.
That's what I mean. It's not going to like conjure up images of playing Halo on the 360. But if you're just a younger person that's an avid fan of older like consoles and gaming in general, or you just live through it and have an affinity for it, you're gonna see a lot more worth in it because of that nostalgia kind of quality.
Yeah.
It does all of it right. It does showcase like the best of like arcade games and the best of like original home console gaming.
Yeah.
And it improves upon a very like old genre that we just really don't get nowadays.
Yeah.
And so if you can see that, it's gonna be perfect for you.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. For those that just don't really have any attachment to that period in gaming or that style of game, they're I don't know what they're gonna find in it.
No.
They may be like, oh, I like the music, or I like the art
pretty.
style, or I like the story. They may be able to like cherry pick like one thing from it, but I don't think they're gonna be as enamored by the whole package as someone like myself.
Yeah, and so that's why I get it 4.7 myself, is because it's just the same thing. It's like, I greatly love it because, again, nostalgia, color, art, chiptunes.
Yeah, for me,
all
it's
that.
a complete package, but I could see in another person's eyes how it would not be.
Yeah,
It
because
would be hardly
and it
anything
comes
for
down
it.
to, again, generational and just kind of, I'm not saying
And Colin's about our age, and so it's like, it makes sense. I mean, after all, he is the driving force behind it. And I think he did a fantastic job, and I think he did a perfect job representing gamers of our ilk and age.
Yeah.
But I don't think he necessarily did for younger
No.
generations. But I don't think that was his intention either.
Nope.
So I think he made a game for himself as much as he did for others.
And that's fair, because, I mean, we're in the
I think
same...
it's completely fair.
the same breath, if we made a game, it'd be for us. And that's how games kind of are geared towards. And I feel like when you get a game like that,
I feel like it adds passion if you
It
make
does.
it more for yourself.
It does.
Rather than making a game just for others.
that's why, like, you get those Call of Duty fans, but then you're like, you get those niche people like you and I, it's like, I don't care about shooting people.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, And there's other shooters which is a good example, that have not reviewed very well, that I absolutely adore and play.
Ghost Recon and Tom
Breakpoint,
Clancy
and things like that, haven't done
The
very
Division
well.
2. And
Yeah, and Division 2 did really well review-wise, but the first one didn't, so that's been kind of spotty. Breakpoint didn't do very well at all.
but it's a really good game. It's just along those lines, and it's just, that
Those
niche
are obviously
market.
made for other people, though, is kind of what it comes down to. Not necessarily for the developer as well. And
Sure.
I think Colin did a really good job making a game for himself as well as other people. So I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
And
he gets a
I want to
very-
give it a near perfect score is kind of what it comes down to. In my mind, a perfect score.
Yeah. And I think he should feel proud because he's got the first, Polar Bear Paw rating from ASI. Woo-hoo!
I know.
That's actually
First
really
time it's
exciting.
happened.
I know, right? First time ever. Oh, it's like a little baby. Oh, it's a Polar Bear Paw. Oh.
Exactly. Which is really cool.
Yep. All right, kind sir. I think that is a wrap on our show here.
I think it is too. So I will be doing a written review, like I said at the top of the podcast, and sharing that through the ASInquisitor website, as well as on ASInquisitor's social media platforms.
Yep.
You
Twitter.
can find that at www.asinquisitor.wordpress.com right now. I still need to register our domain name.
Whoops.
But there is content there, and I'll have the link below. So if you want to check out that written review, you can. If you tend to find yourself agreeing with our assessment of games, or even just like the types of games we talk about,
Yep.
I would urge that you pick this one up.
Yeah.
It's only $10. It's cross-buy. If you're a trophy whore like myself, there's two separate trophy lists for the Vita and the PS4, so you can get 2 platinums. And I honestly don't think it's going to take longer than, like I said, 7 to 9 hours to crank that out if you want.
I was just being generous. My bad.
70 hours. That's what.
Well, I'm not saying you can't put in 20 hours in the game if you really like it.
It was kind of like I talked to my mom today, and we were like joking about like hoarding and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I bought this, and this, or whatever, and I was like, we had like a half bottle of olive oil, but I bought another one, and I was like, no, Mom, I bought 36 cases of olive oil. I'm not hoarding. I'm not a part of the problem. But no, I urge you guys to check out Twin Breaker. I think it's a really cool game. A lot of just kind of just a nostalgia trip.
Yep.
And it's, in my opinion, worth more than the $10.
Same year.
And then ASInquisitor will also be doing some YouTube content and some Twitch content.
Yep.
So we're going to be streaming it. We're going to be producing some YouTube videos throughout this coming week. And
You say we and it's all you, but yep.
fair enough. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be streaming some Twin Breaker for at least an hour.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll switch over to some Doom Eternal.
Doom.
So
Dolly says it very angelic for a child. Doom.
if you catch this episode as it releases, I will still be streaming on Twitch at
See you
ASInquisitor.
live, folks.
Yeah. So, and if you hop in and I'm done with Twin Breaker, just ask. I'll hop back into it.
Yep. Fair enough. All right, folks. Again, my name is Ariel Schultz.
My name's Anthony Schultz.
And as always, follow the bear.
Bear, 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 bear.
Bear, 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 bear. Full of bear paws. We got a rating.
Yeah.
Peace, folks.
Peace. Have a good night.
Don't necessary, cat.
Hey there, guys. This is Anthony Schultz, one half of the duo for Rage Quit. I just wanted to spend a minute or two, at most, talking about Ariel and I's other endeavors or where you can follow her and I if you're a fan of this podcast. So, I'm most prolific on Twitter as far as social media is concerned. I share more kind of gut reaction or like private experiences and opinions there. I'm at Anthony R. Schultz. Pretty easy to remember, just my name. And if you'd be so inclined, you can give me a follow, and I also drop Rage Quit links there every week. And other things that Ariel and I are both working on. ASInquisitor also streams, which is the production company that produces Rage Quit, essentially myself at the moment. And I stream 5 days a week. I'm a variety streamer, so I do a little bit of everything. Hopefully, there's something there that you would really enjoy, even if it's just 1 day a week. I take every Thursday and Friday off, and you can follow and or subscribe at twitch.tv/ASInquisitor. All these links that I'm mentioning will be in the description box below, and I will reiterate. Also, ASInquisitor has a YouTube channel. So if you're not listening to this podcast via YouTube, if you're using your preferred podcast provider, this podcast does make its way to YouTube. We will eventually be recording not only our voices, but also ourselves when we do the podcast. We're just working on some equipment issues right now. But we also have past streams that I've done for ASInquisitor that have a little bit more kind of polish or pizzazz to them. They're divided up into like better bite-sized chunks for complete game playthroughs or Let's Plays. There's also a lot of unique content there. I record things throughout the week as I play games, just kind of funny moments or maybe even like personal achievements, things of that nature. And so you can search for ASInquisitor on YouTube. And again, the link will be in the description below. But those are my three kind of primary platforms that you can find me on. So that's Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Ariel actually has her own YouTube channel called Painting with LM Schultz. She's a very talented painter. She has her fine arts degree and enjoys painting for cathartic reasons, as well as to improve on her like technical prowess. So she started her own YouTube channel to improve on her techniques, as well as show people kind of some basics or things that you can do painting wise. There's also some other kind of crafty do-it-yourself kind of ideas and videos on there as well that pertain a little bit more personally to her and I, because they usually involve our family. You know, it's a family project that she's working on. For example, she did our son's Halloween costume, and so she walked through how she constructed and created, the costume and how you could do something similar for your kiddos at home. And then finally, you can follow Ariel on Twitter as well. She is primarily on Twitter, just like myself. We don't really indulge in too many other social media platforms, save for maybe Instagram. I don't think we're as active on there. Ariel might be, more so than myself. But you can follow her at Merhobbit and give her a follow as well. That's my lovely co-host and beautiful wife, Ariel. But anyways, I just wanted to stop in and kind of throw some links your way. And if you were curious about what ASInquisitor was doing and how Rage Quit kind of fit into that ecosystem, there it is. Yeah, got all the links for you. If you're interested in any one of those, all of those links are going to be in the description box below, and they're going to be in every podcast episode now. So not sure if they're entirely there right now, but I'm going to be doing a fresh write-up and make sure and have all of those included for you. So just click a link or copy and paste and head on over if any of those strike your fancy. But anyways, thanks for enjoying the show. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week for more rage quittiness. And as always, follow the bear. And have a good evening, guys.